Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast. Hey, today I've got on Jason Khalipa. Jason is a CrossFit Games competitor. He's both in individual and team events for 8 consecutive years. He's a CrossFit Games winner. He's the owner of NCFIT, which is a hybrid of physical gym locations and custom programming. He's a philanthropist. He's involved with Never Ever Give Up Foundation and the Apogee program, and host of Effort Over Everything podcast. But more importantly, Jason is a dad of 2 and brings that into everything that he does. And so, Jason, thank you for coming on today, man. What do we chat about?
Yeah, no, hey, that was a good intro.
Thank
you.
Good?
First take too. Look, we talked a little bit about family, obviously about having kids, raising kids, talked about fitness and obviously competition. And, I shared a little bit on the business side. I think that people walk away trying to think a little bit from a different perspective and hopefully learn something new. That's about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, I took away a lot from it. Like, I think just on the cold plunge conversation, in itself, and you guys will dive into that if you give it a listen. A lot of fun there. So Jason, thanks for coming on, man. Guys, you're going to love this episode, and let's dive in.
Are you ready to become the dad you know you are meant to be? Good, because this is the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast, where imperfect action is better than perfect ideas, promises kept are more important than promises made, and nothing happens unless you make it happen. My name is Drew, father of 3, and founder of the Epic Dad Company. My mission is to help dads up their game and become the husbands, fathers, and men they're called to be. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the episode.
Jason Khalipa, what is up, man?
Yeah. Hey, good to be here. Good to chat. Ready to rock and roll.
Thanks Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So the NC and NCFIT stands for Northern California. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So yeah. where you out of?
I'm so I like the closest location that people would probably recognize is San Jose. So San Jose, California.
Okay. If I'm looking at California and you're like splitting it in the middle, north, south, is that northern? I mean, obviously it's northern side, right? But is it closer to like Washington State, or is it like closer?
No, it's like
the middle.
It's the Bay Area, right? So like when we talk about NorCal, we really think about like the Bay Area. Now there's much more NorCal than us, which starts to hit, up. But we're like, yeah, we're not central, we're not southern, we're above that in the Bay Area. So that's
gotcha.
But most people refer to this place as like, oh, you're going to NorCal. Is most people think about that as the Bay Area, like San Francisco, Bay Area.
Yeah, gotcha. And you grew up around there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah, I've been to San Diego. That's the only place in California I've been. So I've got a lot of exploring to do in the state.
Oh, dude, San Diego is beautiful. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do in San Diego, but San Diego's awesome, but there's a lot more in the northern. Like if you go more north, there's some beautiful places in California. Especially on the coast. It's great.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you for coming on, man.
Of course.
I've been wanting to chat with you, for a while. I've been kind of a big CrossFitter guy, for, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years now. And wanted to bring you on really to talk, one about fitness, nutrition, things like that, but really dive into fatherhood and being a leader. So, Jason, if you wouldn't mind, man, for folks that don't know you, would you mind giving just a quick background of kind of, your fitness journey and where you're at now?
Sure. Yeah. I got introduced to, so prior to high school, I used to race BMX bikes. When I got into high school, I started playing football. I also threw the shot, basically didn't dedicate myself as much as I'd want to. When I got out of high school, I went to a junior college. I was still working at the conventional gym. I was introduced to a bunch of stuff, started doing Muay Thai, got into a little bit of jiu-jitsu for a little bit. And then I was introduced to CrossFit and bodybuilding, got really into CrossFit. I ended up graduating from college, opening up a CrossFit gym, winning the CrossFit Games. I then competed there for the next decade or so, really dedicated my life to the sport of CrossFit. And then in 2016, I stopped competing and I actually got introduced to jiu-jitsu around the same time. And so for the last 6 years or so, I've been, obviously still getting after in the gym, getting after all those type of workouts, but also incorporating jiu-jitsu regularly into my fitness journey. Last 6 years, that's kind of where it's gone. It's ebbs and flows.
Yeah. What year did you win the games?
I won the games in 2008, and then I competed there for the next 8 years professionally.
Okay. Whew, man, 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
That's where's the train up like for that? I mean, is that year round Do you have an off
Yeah, I
season?
mean, especially towards like so I was on the podium. So I took second in 2013, and I took third in 2014. So that gap, that span, yeah, I mean, it was year round, right? I would compete in the open, regionals, Team USA. I was on that 3 years in a row. So yeah, it was a all year, all the time.
Yeah. And then you were owning a CrossFit gym at that point?
Yeah,
Okay.
a variety of them, and yeah. So like, yes, to answer your question, I was competing professionally. Then we opened up, we had several brick and mortars, and then we expanded to corporate wellness. And so, currently we have like 23 locations plus some licensed partners. But at the time when I was really competing, we had probably around the same actually.
Okay. Okay, man, that's just like all CrossFit all the time, man.
Yeah, just a lot of fitness, a lot of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Do most of those guys, I mean, I know it's like training year round, like it has to be, right, to compete at that level. Are there some guys that are competing in the games that, hey, they're holding down a regular 9 to 5 job, or is it mostly like, hey, you got to be, in the gym 3-4 times a day?
There was, back in the day, there was some people that had other jobs, like being a firefighter or whatever. Now, I'd say most people, most of the time, not everybody, but most people are full-time CrossFit athletes. There are a few exceptions at the games, but not at the highest level.
Yeah.
Translate back on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like, I don't know. So I hit 36 a couple of weeks ago. And so, I've been thinking about like, all right, how do I make a run at Masters? Right. Like now that I'm on the kind of the older side of the house, I feel like I'm even more competitive. But at the same point in time, right, like I got a job, I got a business I'm running, and I'm like, hey, I could legitimately probably work out for like an hour, maybe 2 a day, get a couple training sessions in. And so it's just like, all right, it seems like you need to like totally shift your lifestyle to be able to compete at that level.
Yeah, I mean, you got to really dedicate yourself, man, especially if you want to compete. Masters is a little bit different, because a lot of those people have regular jobs as well. But from an individual perspective, it's definitely a full-time commitment, 100%.
Yeah. Well, cool. And well, tell me about NCFIT then. I mean, you said you guys have expanded to multiple locations. You got some franchising, things like that. And you guys are doing some programming and stuff too, right?
Yeah. So we have, we operate in a few different verticals. We own and operate brick and mortar gyms like the one I'm in right now. We have corporate wellness sites globally with a few different companies. And then we provide solutions for gym owners called the NCFIT Collective, which is session plans and programming. And we provide solutions for athletes through our NCFIT app. And so those are just workouts that are available through our app that anybody could do in their gym, in their garage, or et cetera.
Okay. Yeah. I tried it out last week. I was like, let me download this before I hop on with Jason and try a few workouts. My biceps are still sore. I don't know.
Did you do like NC Flex, or which one did you do?
Yeah, I think so. It was the like 28s, biceps.
Oh yeah.
It was doing like full curls, half, then half down, and then full curls. So I'm still sore.
We're gonna be making some changes on the app, but I'm excited about where it's going. I think it's clean. I think it's good. But we're gonna be making some additions that I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Are you coming up with the programming yourself?
We have a team here. So the nice thing about our business is we actually have coaches that coach, who then can also support on the programming and session plan side. And so that definitely is a differentiator between us and others, is that we're not just a digital business. We see our athletes on a daily basis, and the same people that are coaching classes get to help curate the programs and whatnot. And so, no, I don't create all of that. We have a full team that's really responsible for a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So Jason, how many kids you got?
2.
Yeah, 2. How old are they?
I have a boy and a girl. I have an 8-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. And dude, it's just it's great. It's awesome. It's been an incredible journey being a father. It's been one of the greatest. I mean, it's been the greatest thing ever. And my kids are cool, and they're at an age where I don't have to wipe their butt, so it's all good.
Yeah, I'm back to wiping butts. I got a 6-month-old son. I got 2 girls that are out of diaper stages. One's in first grade, she's 6, and one that's 4, and then a 6-month-old son. So right when we transition out of diapers, it's 6 months, then right back into it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So for us at 8 and 11 now, it's like they have their own personalities. They're it's fun to watch them kind of grow up, and especially as you're raising kids, and when they're younger, it's a lot of like you're not getting much feedback. Now I'm getting a lot of feedback. So my son loves sports. My daughter's really interested in different things. It's fun to kind of see them grow up and be a part of that.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So I mean, I'm assuming you must have been competing at the games when you had children, right?
That's right. So
Okay.
yeah, I was competing at the games, and for us, we had a company that was growing globally. I was competing at the CrossFit Games, and I had 2 children. I really had to kind of make some changes and figure out where my priorities lied. And so I ended up going team for 1 year instead of going individual, just because of the demand that came from the CrossFit Games individually. Really, because when you have different priorities in your life, your business, your family, your fitness, at some point, competing just it needs to take a back seat to what's, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my children. And so I ended up going team for a year, and then my daughter got sick in 2016. And so that was really the catalyst to stop competing. I don't know if I'd still be competing on a team or whatnot, but
Yeah.
I'm not, obviously, right now.
Yeah. And I think, you go through different seasons in life, right? And where you were competing, that may have taken an outsized share of your focus, right? But that's kind of what the season of life was, right? And then you ebb and flow into different seasons, and now it seems like it's kind of more family focused, more business focused,
Yeah. I mean, well, and for us, it really, I was not competing. I don't know. I don't envy, if you compete at a high level and you're winning, like I look at like a guy like Tom Brady. It's so difficult because he competes at such a high level. He's so dominant, but yet at some point he needs to give it up for other things. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, I came off of 2 podium finishes at the games. Then I went team, and our team just crushed it. And when my daughter got sick, it was a really easy way to be like, hey, look, I'm out. I don't know what it feels like to still be at the top of your sport. Like Rich Fronings's been at the top of the sport for a decade plus. And it's probably tough to give it up because you're still at the top.
Yeah.
For me, I
you're so good.
Yeah.
Like, how many more can I win,
Right. But for me, it wasn't that situation because the world had different plans for me. So, that's why, I mean, in some ways it was an easy decision to retire from the sport, but it was a really good time and a good season overall for me in my life competing. It taught me a lot about, mental toughness, mindset, perspective. I mean, the CrossFit Games taught me a lot more mentally than it did physically.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to your daughter? And is she doing well now?
Yeah, she's doing well now. She was diagnosed with leukemia.
Okay.
Her type of leukemia was called ALL. It's a brutal disease. Hurts a lot of people, does a lot of bad stuff. And so for us, it's a 3-year treatment plan, and then 5 years till fully cured. Now, fortunately for us, we're 6 months out from her fully cured mark, where statistically her likelihood of relapse or cancer is the same as, the average person.
Yeah.
So we're 6 months out from that date, which is a big cornerstone, big deal. But yeah, I mean, look, when your child gets sick, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And yeah, I don't wish anybody this situation. And it taught us a lot about family, about relationships, about perspective. But it was tough go for a 3-year treatment plan, 2.5, 3 years.
I cannot even imagine that, that is just brutal, man. To even think about your child having to go through something like that. It is brutal. And I'm super, glad she's doing great. I'm sure you guys are going to throw a humongous party. In 6 months.
We threw a big party. It's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. So when she was done with treatment, we threw a big party, right? Like, yeah, because that's a big milestone too. And I was thinking about this the other day. What would you celebrate more? Like, what are the biggest celebrations in your life? Like, let's think about it. You have a wedding. You have, grandchildren or children being born, and you have someone being cured from a terminal illness. I mean, I can't really think of what else would be on the list of like major things we need to celebrate than that. And so we celebrated hard when she finished treatment, and we're going to celebrate, really hard at this 5-year mark because, in our lifetime, there'll be very few things to celebrate. Yeah, you'll graduate. Yeah, you'll do birthdays, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, those are minuscule compared to these accomplishments,
Yeah. And I have to think too that, all the discipline and hard work that you put into the games and getting there had to play some, some level and some impact to how you were able to react to that news coming about your daughter. And hey, it's an individual sport, but like, you've got to have the mental discipline and mental fortitude to push through extremely challenging things in the sport of CrossFit.
Yeah.
And so what did that play as far as, the way that you approached, illness and the way that you approached kind of leading the family?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the greatest gift the CrossFit Games gave me was, these mindset tools to positive self-talk, understand what's in my control, and essentially learning how to compartmentalize and callous my mind to have the capability to overcome micro adversities in the gym and then big adversities when you're competing. I've done some really gnarly events. Like I've done some really, really difficult things physically. And when you do those physical things, they can teach you a lot mentally. And, those tools were definitely utilized in this case, just at a I'm grateful for CrossFit because if it wasn't for that, I don't know if we would have handled things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the odds are not the odds, the words I'm trying to look for, the risks are much higher. There's a lot more at stake when someone gets diagnosed with cancer than when you're trying to win the CrossFit Games, right? But the skill sets you develop during CrossFit definitely transferred over. I mean, examples are, compartmentalizing what's in your control versus out of your control and really leaning into that. And, there's certain things that are going to be in your control and there's certain things that are out, and you have to focus on what's in your control. Otherwise it could drive you nuts. And those are the type of things we really leaned on through the process. Because for us, for a lot of people who maybe haven't been put in this situation, I hope they never do. The way it works with cancer, in particular, blood cancer, is that it's not like a tumor, so sometimes what happens with a tumor is they'll identify a tumor, in particular. I mean, if it's terrible, I hope it would never be in the brain, but there's all different types of tumors. And you can go in there, you could operate on it. You could also then, perform some basic chemotherapy and hope that, that's the treatment and it's done. It might take a couple of months and it's over. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, by the way. I'm just saying that type of treatment plan is different than the treatment plan on blood cancers where, they're getting put to sleep a bunch of times to put chemo into the spine. It's just more drawn out.
Yeah, it's not isolated to one specific spot, right?
Yeah. And that's not to say, like I said, tumors could be extremely deadly and terrible, but the treatment plan is just different, more acute, more focused than this more, longer term treatment plan that typically happens with blood. And so you'll be in and out of the hospital for months and months and months. You'll stay in for a month, you're out for 3 months. You're in for a week, you're out for 3 months. You're in for a day, you're out for a month. And it just was the way it was for 2.5 years. So it's just a different type of thing where there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and you have to learn how to navigate through those. Is I guess the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. And I think really important what you said too about isolating what's within your control and what's outside of your control. Because it can just drive you crazy, right? If you're focused on things and that ultimately, you may have somewhat an impact on, but, the actions you take are going to have no, no deterrence on the outcome, right? Especially with cancer and things like that, right? I'm sure you just had to focus on the day in and day out of like, hey, we're going to go to chemo, we're going to keep a positive attitude. And, what we can control, and this is what I tell my kids a lot, is there's two things that are within your control: your attitude and your reaction are what's in your control. Right. Yeah. And stuff that happens outside of that, hey, don't worry about it. Right. Like you got to focus on what you can control.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about, same exact thing, right? You can control your effort. You can't control the outcome. You can only control what you can control. And I think once you learn that, especially in really difficult times, it's easier said than done for sure. But I think what it allows you to do is get through difficult situations and be at more ease with it. Because like, for example, there were some really difficult times, right? I mean, you're in the ICU. It's just totally fucked. I mean, it's just terrible. It's just brutal. And you're seeing all these really sick kids. And, you want to think that you can't have anything to do with the actual disease. Like you cannot, that's what the doctors are there for. And I'm forever grateful for the doctors and the times that they've saved my daughter's life and countless others that I witnessed in firsthand. But for me, it's like, I can have a positive outlook. I can go, get food. I could go, support my wife. I could support my daughter. I could do these different things. And when you start really focusing on that, it helps you feel like you're contributing. But if you're worried about the things you can't contribute to, it's like, it just drives you nuts,
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing they preach in the military, right? I was in the Army for a while, had the chance to, have combat deployment, and, stuff is going to happen all around you. Right. And it's basically, hey, there may be a gunfight going on, and there's things that are totally outside your control. Right. And so you have to narrow your scope of focus to what action can I take right now that's going to have a positive result. So, and the same thing, being in that kind of extreme austere environment, can be equivalent to being in the ICU room of just, what is directly within my control? How can I make a positive impact?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a big lesson that we learned throughout the process was just this idea. And I was actually talking about this earlier today, just the concept and idea about perspective. I think it's a good one to have. I think as you get older, you mature, you learn more, you have more life experiences. And that could be from travel, right? That could be from a bunch of different things where you're meeting new people, you're learning different experiences. But for me, a lot of it came through obviously competing, but also through, seeing a lot of sick kids. It really changed my perspective. Like I was at the hospital yesterday, for example, and it just changes your perspective on your business. There's going to be struggles, of course. And we have our fair share. That's for damn sure. But when you see real struggle, it definitely changes the way your perspective shifts on other situations in your life. Whether you're overseas and you're seeing some really bad things, when you come back, you kind of reflect on that. And it's like, wow, your perspective really shifts. It makes you think twice about yelling at somebody for cutting you off. It's like, is that really that big of a deal? Probably not, but you know what I mean? It's funny the way your perspective shifts as you get older.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to manage a lot of people, in the corporate space. And one thing I always come back to, whether we're on a project that's like not going well, or we've got come into a deliverable that's due, in a few days or whatever, and just really stressed out. And I just come back to like, hey, at the end of the day, guys, we're not getting shot at, right? So I feel like we're doing pretty good. It's not life or death.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same thing. I think that something else I think about a lot, and I'm sure this works for you too, is this idea of like, we've been through worse is something I think about. Yeah. Right. Like, so let's just say it's corporate environment, business environment. Even family, whatever. It's like, we'll get through this because we've been through worse is something I think about. Now, if you haven't been through worse and that's the worst, like I feel sorry for you. And like, then you got to start utilizing other, obviously, mindset tools to get through that. Because if that's the worst thing you've gone through, like that sucks. It's tough. But more than likely, more times than not, you've probably been through something worse, and you can lean on that as a confidence builder.
Hey, taking a quick pause from the episode, I want to let you guys know about our Epic Dad 7-Day Challenge. Hey, if you guys are feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed, if you feel like you're not getting the results that you want in life and as a dad, I urge you to sign up for our free Epic Dad 7-Day Challenge. It is an online challenge that is delivered through email, and you'll become part of our Epic Dad Crew Facebook group. And really what this challenge is designed to do is to teach you the foundational habits of success, right? So how to set your mornings up right, how to, ensure that you are having a stillness practice, how to be present with your kids. So just things that, we really need to be doing as dads, but we get so caught up and wrapped up in everyday life, right? And so this challenge is designed to get you outside your comfort zone. Each challenge is between 10 and 20 minutes a day, so it's not going to take up too much time. But what it will do is, like I said, it's going to teach you the foundational components of really setting up your morning and setting up your day for success to be not only the best man you can be, but the best husband, provider, best father you can be as well. So I urge you guys to sign up. It is a totally free challenge. So there will be a link in the show description where you guys can go and sign up. And I look forward to seeing you inside the challenge.
Yeah, I want to touch on that too, kind of the building confidence and going through hard things, right? So now that you're not actively competing in the games anymore, what are some of the things that you are doing in your, every day or every week or whatever the case is that help you kind of keep that blade sharp, right? And make sure you're going through difficult things. Because I think, to your point, it's going to help you build confidence, right? And know that, hey, I'm doing things potentially I don't want to do that are very difficult, but I know that's going to be ultimately good for me, right? Because then I've got that context as to, hey, I can get through this because I've been through more difficult things.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe in this concept of earned confidence. I think it's really important. It's a valuable tool. What earned confidence really means is that, there's perceived and earned confidence. I think that earned confidence comes from putting in the work, and I'll give you a great example. I'll use a more like, I was just with Customs and Border Protection, and I was talking to them, and we were talking about earned confidence. And I've earned my confidence in fitness from, 2 decades of being in the gym and training and whatever. But I can't go on the range with those guys. Yes, I have some basic foundational skills with rifles and with pistols, but I haven't put the rounds down range that these guys have. I have not had the time under tension that they have to feel that earned confidence, to know that they could hit a target at 100 yards or whatever it is. And I could tell myself all I want, but the reality is that's just perceived confidence. When those guys have earned the confidence day in and day out, they've been on the range, they've worked these skills. And so what I think about all the time is, how do I earn the confidence in anything I'm doing, whether that's business, family, fitness, whatever. And a lot of the time that comes from just being in the trenches and putting in the work. And then I could show up at the CrossFit Games and feel like I earned the right to be there because I've been putting in the work every day. And, those are the things I think about. So as far as like getting uncomfortable, on a regular basis, I definitely expose myself to hot and cold. I think those are good tools. They're not for everybody. You don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money. But if you want to go explore hot and cold, I think there's definitely value there. So yes, I expose myself to sauna on a regular basis. I do the cold plunge every single day. Those are tools that I use in my toolbox, but they're not the only ones, right? I'm still actively crushing myself in the gym and actively getting after it on the mats in jiu-jitsu. And those things, along with competing regularly, whether it's in jiu-jitsu or in CrossFit, are things that help me get more, stay uncomfortable. Like I competed 2 weeks ago at a jiu-jitsu tournament. I'm competing in a month at the Rogue Invitational for CrossFit. So those are the things that keep me pushing.
Yeah. I think there's such like a, kind of a foundational like mind-body connection too, right? Of pushing yourself physically to the point of exhaustion, right? To where you think I can't keep going, but then you keep going, right? And then, all of a sudden you realize like, hey, I have a lot more capacity probably than I thought I could. And there's some quote, I forget who said it though, that's like, hey, once you feel like you've reached your limit, you're about 40% of the way there, right?
Yeah.
And so like you've got a lot more in the tank. And so, by doing those things that you're talking about, doing, cold plunges and sauna and getting after the gym, I think it's just going to help build that mindset, right? Of I know that I can accomplish these tough things. And so I think you just have to be very intentional about structuring those in your everyday.
Yeah. And they build on each other, right? Like, again, it's not going to happen overnight, but if you can go one day, you hit the gym for 10 minutes, the next day you hit the gym for 10 minutes, you do that for a month, and then you add, and then you add, and then you add. And what you're doing is we used to say, when I used to teach seminars for CrossFit, people's ability are based on their physical and psychological like thresholds. And what would happen is a lot of people maybe physically were pretty capable, but psychologically they just weren't at a place yet to push themselves at a specific level, or vice versa, right? You have a collegiate wrestler who psychologically, mentally could push themselves to levels unknown to most people, but then they don't work out for 10 years. And we have to be careful when we reintroduce them, because mentally they're there, but physically they might not be there. But for a lot of people, it's most of the time mental, where they need to start slowly building up. And what they do is they then start building more confidence in themselves. And then next thing you know, they're crushing it.
Yeah. Tell me about your ice bath. So I've been trying to do this somewhat regularly for a while now, probably, not 9 months or so. And I went down to Home Depot and picked up a, one of those giant metal tubs, right? And it's such a pain
The
in the
horse
ass.
troughs.
Yeah, man. It's such a pain in the ass because I got to go, get like 30 bags of ice and fill it up. And I'm just like, yeah. And then now to the point, man, it's like, dude, I spend like $100 on ice, once a week. I'm like, what the shit? Like, there's gotta be an easier way.
There is an easier way. So there's two options. First off, I think that the barrel and all that stuff, I mean, it's fine. The horse trough, it's fine. I actually use a Yeti cooler at one point, a big ass one. It's fine. Right. But the better way is just, if you see value in cold exposure, if you do, and you really do, for the mental benefits, the fat burn benefits, and the reduce inflammation, let's just say, if that's the case. By the way, my children are 100%. My daughter goes in the cold plunge every single day in the morning. So I work out with her every morning, and then she goes in the plunge. It's changed her mindset for the whole day.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible tool. So if people, we keep it at 52 degrees, which isn't that cold. And the benefit is that I could have the kids in there. But anyways, back to the point. I think there's two options. My option would be to go purchase one from the company called the Cold Plunge, or another example. They're about $5,000, but I think that over time they'll pay themselves in gold. I mean, they're just,
I think there's payment plans too. I've looked at those. You can do, a firm with like whatever a monthly payment or whatever.
Yeah.
Feel like $5,000 is too much.
They have a filter. They keep the water at a specific temperature. They filter it out. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. That's what I use. Now, if you can't afford that, no problem. Totally get it. Another option would be a reach-in freezer, where you have like the reach-in freezers that you can then convert into ice baths. And there's do-it-yourself stuff on YouTube. It'll cost you maybe $700 to $900, and I think that's a great second alternative.
Yeah.
If you can't do the cold plunge.
Yeah. What are some of the other benefits for cold plunging? You mentioned, I mean, obviously the mindset one, right? Which I'm, I know and actively try to do, and same thing with my kids too, right? I'll get them in there. I don't do it as often as every day because ice gets expensive, right? But
you gotta switch that. I
just need to go pro on this. But no, I'll get them in there, right? And it's awesome to see, them not wanting to go in at the beginning, and like, I don't think I can do it. And then, I just tell them, hey, 30 seconds. Like, that's all you got to do, 30 seconds. And then they hop out, and just to see like their face, right? Like, holy crap, I did this. I accomplished it. It was awesome. But what are some of the other benefits? You mentioned, potential fat loss and, arthritis and things like that.
I'd say there's three main benefits that I've personally witnessed, but also just are pretty scientifically like pretty clear cut. The biggest thing to think about is that ancestrally and over time, we've just became more and more comfortable, and we are not exposing our bodies to extreme temperatures in either direction, because we keep our house at 72. We wear sweatshirts in the winter, and we wear, and during the summer we have air conditioning. And so from a cellular level, I think we're missing out on some of these ancestral things that helped us. And so I think that there's a huge benefit to cold exposure for the main reasons I was saying. Number one, yes, the mindset. Of course, you don't want to do it. You get in, you win the day, right? Mm. Number two is you can learn how to do deep nasal breathing to control your mind and to free yourself. And those are great lessons that when you're pressured at work, you could learn how to, when you feel that heart rate elevating, when you feel out of control, can you bring yourself back down? Those are great lessons that the cold can teach you, and working out can teach you, but the cold can teach you really well. I think from a fat burn perspective, something I've just witnessed is that thermal, like when you get to the point where basically your body to its core has cooled down, your body then wants to reheat it. And so I think that you get through some auxiliary benefits of fat loss, because your body has to burn a ton of calories to get the body back up to a temperature that's appropriate for it. So I think there's fat loss, specifically something they call brown fat loss, which.
Yeah, I've listened to Huberman's podcast on it, and something about transitioning from white fat to brown fat or something. I don't know. It's very scientific, but it sounds like you have to get like into a state of shiver, I guess, for it to really like take effect, right? And so if you're sitting in there and it's just like feels nice and cool, and you're like, all right, this is not bad. Like, I don't think you're getting the effect that you need to get, right? Like it needs to be, doesn't need to be like freezing, but you need to get to a point to where it is uncomfortable and you get to a shiver.
Yeah. And so for me, at 52 degrees, I think everybody's a little bit different here, But for me at 52 degrees, geez, let me turn off my notifications. So for me, when I go to 52 degrees, if I stay in it for 5 minutes, I get that effect that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, the way it works is, this is just my opinion, is that it goes from, like if you're at 35 degrees and you stay in for a minute, or if you're at 52 degrees, you stay in for 5, I think it's the same thing, because basically you're just trying to get down to your core and freeze it. But I don't know. But anyways, I mean, for me, I feel the benefits at that temperature. I do start getting really cold. I'm not good in the cold. I hate the cold. And so for me, 52 is like where I'm at. And eventually I'm going to get lower, but for now, that's where I'm at. And then the third benefit, obviously, is the anti-inflammatory component. You know, I train pretty hard on a daily basis. And I think there's definitely anti-inflammatory, pro recovery aspects of being in the cold.
Yeah. Yeah. The 52 degrees is interesting. I mean, you're from California. I feel like I said, you feel like that's pretty chilly. 52, you know, I mean, Minnesota guys might need to go down to like 32.
Exactly. And and by the way, like everybody's different. So for me, I can handle the heat really well. I can handle discomfort pretty well. I cannot handle the cold well. So I'm okay to admit it. Like I remember I did my first Go Ruck event, and they brought us to the ocean like at 1 a.m. And we went in and out of the water at 1 a.m. in Santa Cruz, which the water during that time was actually pretty cold. Like it was probably like 50 degrees. And we were going in and out, in and out, in and out, you know, getting wet and sandy, you know, that, you know, I don't, you know, and I was just shivering profusely. Like I could not control it. And I recognized at that moment that compared to my peers, my body just doesn't do well with the cold. And so it's something I need to expose myself to more. But for me, I feel like I'm winning at that degrees, but I eventually want to go lower.
Absolutely, man. I'm just giving you a hard time about the 52.
No. And we are kind of weak here in California, to be honest, because, you know, like a cold day is like, you know, 60 degrees or whatever it is. It's not, you know.
So you do cold plunges, do heat exposure, and then you're still working out. Are you doing like daily workouts, like 7 days a week or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day.
Okay.
Every day, most days, multiple times a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Dang,
yeah,
man.
I mean, my training adjusts, right? So like, so far today, for example, I worked out with my daughter at 6 a.m. While she worked out, I either ride the bike or I get on the treadmill, and then I cold plunged, and I've been on podcasts since. Now, after this, I'm going to go train. And then if I have time, I'll try and get in some jiu-jitsu later on. If I don't, that's fine too. But I typically will get in morning cardio, afternoon, either like one of our classes here at the gym and or jiu-jitsu, or both.
Okay. How is some of that stuff translated over to the way that you are fathering your children? And you know, it sounds like, hey, you guys are working out every morning, like you got your daughter doing cold plunges, things like that. But like, you know, just your overall mindset of we need to do difficult things. How has that shifted the way that potentially you parented before to, you know, the evolution of where you're at now?
I mean, I think that from a parenting perspective, it's always been the same. The struggle I've had is that my kids have evolved. So in the beginning, you know, I mean, our background's a little different, right? Because my daughter had, you know, when she was, I mean, if you fast forward past the years that we were in the hospital, because at that point you pick your battles. Like she gained a lot. You know, it's funny. I went to the doctor yesterday with her. Like I was saying, she currently weighs the same today as she did at 7 years old. So it's really interesting because she was on all these steroids and all this stuff. And we were pretty nervous, to be honest, about her lack of movement and consumption of food. I was pretty worried. And because she wasn't very tall and she was pretty big. And there's probably ways that I could have handled it better. I tried to handle it the best I could, encourage her to eat more healthy, encourage her to move. But, you know, looking back on it, I probably could have done a better job of communicating that better. You know, she was so young and we try to be sensitive to it. But after a while, what I realized was we just created a rule in the house, and the rule was simple. Hey, every day you have to sweat once a day. I don't care what you do. Go out on the trampoline, go out for a run, go to the gym, you know, go walk, whatever it is. It doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, we just need you to, you know, sweat once a day. And once we embodied that, I then slowly started to get her in the garage with me. We would watch TV and walk. That's it. And we would do that 10 minutes every day. And then eventually what she started to realize was that when she exercised and the byproduct of her movement made her feel better about herself and she was looking better. And as soon as she started seeing the results and feeling better, it just clicked for her. And now she's the one that wants to be working out and playing volleyball and all that stuff. It just, I had to meet her where she was at. And I think for a while, I didn't realize that. And she didn't see the value in exercise and fitness that I did because she needed to see it for herself. And so anyways, each one of my kids have kind of gone through different journeys. With her, it was like that. With my son, he's always been wanting to get after it with me. We go in the garage. I work with him for like an hour or two, teaching technique, lifting weights, playing whatever. With her, it's more like, hey, 15 minutes, let's get after it. Let's plunge, let's go. So she doesn't like necessarily fitness as much. She likes the byproduct. Whereas my son likes like the grunt work. He likes
the process.
Yeah. So it's just a different strokes for different kids. And I think if I were to give myself some advice, looking back on where we're at today, I think we're in a really good spot with the kids with their fitness journey. I always told myself I didn't want them to have resentment towards fitness or have an awkward relationship with nutrition. I always knew that was important, but I could have done an even better job of just being a little bit more relaxed and just meeting them when they're at, and knowing that over time, if I continue to inspire, share, and just create these like baseline rules that are very, very achievable, that eventually they would want to do it on their own. That's what I would have advised myself 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I think it's a balance to your point, right? Like, with young kids, I think if you push them too hard, right, it is going to create that resentment. And then they're going to go in the complete opposite direction, And so if you're like, hey, you got to eat your broccoli tonight and you're not leaving the dinner table until you do, and blah, 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 like, hey, they're not going to do it, and they're going to resent you for it. And so I think you have to have that balance, right? Of, and it's tough, man, especially the nutrition side with young kids. Oh my God. I get so freaking frustrated with my children, but hey, they're little, as long as they're getting some nutrition in, like, it's fine. And then to your point, we'll try to just set the example as the parents of what we should be eating and how we should eat a balanced diet, and expose them to it. And, hopefully over constant exposure, they'll start eating healthy.
Yeah. I mean, for my wife and I, it was just like, hey, the kids are going to eat, at a really early age. I don't know if we're just lucky because the kids liked different things, but like, we exposed them to everything really early on, because I did not want to be the person that's just, pasta with butter and pizza. I wanted to expose them to flavors and things like that. And so because we started doing that at such an early age, it's still carried over. And then you're right, trying to talk through how much is too much and having a healthy relationship with food. And where we've leaned into is more of like, hey, movement is a requirement of life as a human being, less so than like, let's go starve ourselves. And so that's what I've been trying to lean into, because I feel like we got to be really careful with food, especially with girls. Not, you know what I mean? Like what I try and teach my daughter is like, food is fuel. You need to eat. It's good to eat. Just, we also need to back that up with activity and healthy foods. And so those have been things we've been trying to instill in the children.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll find myself, and I'll catch myself, my wife, too, will kind of nudge me like, hey, we probably shouldn't say that. Right. And it's tougher with girls too. Right. Cause I'll be going through, where I'm like tracking my macros like crazy and try to cut down on carbs and stuff, and then we'll be eating some for dinner, and I'll just make a comment of like, no, I can't eat that. I'm allergic to carbs, or something like that. It's like, no, don't say that. Don't say that.
Because they pick that up. Right. Like, and so we have a good balance. Cause like my wife, for example, she does better and feels better on lower carb. And, for her, like that's important to her. For me, I exercise so much that I try and find this balance with my children, like to let them see me. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to eat a piece of pizza, like, I want them to see that there's a balance, right? Like I'm 95% good, but it's okay to go have banana bread because that's my favorite thing or whatever. And, those are just like parenting things that I think also, like, when you grow up and the way you're raised, like, I just want to be a better, like, my parents were amazing and they were awesome. But they only knew what they know. Right.
Yeah.
And now I have more life experiences from them. And so how can I take what I've learned from them and then, layer on what I think,
Yeah. And so I want to transition a little bit into kind of like the state of like culture where we're at today. Like our big hypothesis as a brand is really, we've seen the decline in culture just because dads have not been like the leaders they should be in the home. You know, and you look like broadly at society, and to your point, what we were talking about earlier, it's really easy to think, hey, there's going to be a political solution or there's going to be some broad macro solution. But if you really dial it into what can you control, it's like, how can I make myself the best version of myself as a dad? And how can I lead my family? And then, you know, hopefully over time, that's going to cascade down, you know, one, into the broader community with other dads that you're hanging out with, and they're going to help impact their kids and have a cascading effect. But then two, generationally, right, is hey, I'm going to help raise my kids to make the best decisions, to have like the right, you know, value set. And, you know, over generations, then we're going to see the culture shift back. So like that's kind of where we're at now. I'd love to get your take on that, because you're involved in the Apogee program, you know, which is really taking young men, really teaching them how to be leaders in you know, in their community, really how to lead themselves and lead others. So I'd love to just get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is something I'm very passionate about. I think that, you know, especially here in California and other areas, there's at times where, you know, I think that young men need they need good mentors in their life. They need their fathers to come in and show them what it means to be a man. And that's not this toxic masculinity. That's not this, no, like what my goal is for my son. So my son's 8. He has, you know, appropriate capabilities with jiu-jitsu, with hand-to-hand fighting, with he's had exposure to firearms and rifles, and he's been training with local police departments since he was 5. And I want to expose him to things that he has interest in, but that I also think are going to help him be the guy who's in the room, who's going to be the one that opens the door for a woman, who could stand up for the guy that's getting bullied, but also is the most loving and caring human that you'll ever meet, but is fully capable of defending himself and those that he loves around him. And I think that it's not mutually exclusive. Just because you want to be a man in the terms of your physical capabilities doesn't mean that you can't be a man also who's just a really good person, who's loving and is okay to tell people that they're loving. And I think that's ultimately what I would love to see out of my son in the future is the guy that, you know, has those balancing characteristics. And I think that's what we need more in society is to teach men this rite of passage of learning what it takes to be a man, which is to be this gentleman, right? This person who's loving and caring, but at the same time, it has skills and strength that could, you know, defend themselves and defend others. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when you look at some of the things that have been happening in our society, active shooters in particular are the ones that really hurt. I mean, they're just so terrible. And when you look at the people that typically perform these terrible acts, I think we need to look at it and say, you know, what are the common denominators?
Yep. And
typically, I think what they're missing is this idea that, you know, men in general, they have this aggression, this, and it needs to learn how to be channeled and harnessed. Yep. And I think that's what we're missing. You know, I see it in my son. I even see it in myself, that if we don't exert in a constructive, positive way, I see that he'll act out because this anxiousness, this aggression will build up, and he needs to learn how to cope with that, address it, and then positively put it out into the universe. But don't just build it up playing all these video games, whatever, and then do these terrible acts. Anyways, I can go on and on about this.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And I'll touch on that too, like on the active shooter front, you know, have been diving in and doing some research. This is part of the company. Like, I'm studying the foundation to write a book. It's way out there. It's kind of like in the nebulous right now. But at some point in time or the next year, like it'll happen. But just starting to look at that, right? As you start to peel the onion back of a lot of the active shooters, especially, you know, you look and see, hey, one, dad wasn't around, right? That's a big one. And then 2, if dad was around, I mean, frankly, dad was a shitbag, right? And there just hasn't been a positive role model in this person's life to teach them those things, right? To teach them that, hey, aggression is okay. Like, you have a lot of testosterone going through you. Like, as a man, you are meant to go out and like conquer things, right? Like, that's just ancestrally like what we've done. And like, that's going to be an innate part of you. But to your point, you have to learn how to channel that. And then two, you have to learn how to channel that into a sense of purpose, I think. And I think that's what's really missing too from this younger generation, is they don't know, really what they're striving towards, right? There's no sense of purpose. And I think that's where dads especially have failed, over the past generations, is providing that sense of purpose and telling them it's okay to go be aggressive. It's okay to want to accomplish things, but you have to do it like in a positive manner.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like one of the major things about parenting is just showing up. I think being there, being present, and teaching that it's okay to win. It's great to win. And it's good to lose too. We need to learn how to lose. We need to learn how to win. We need to compete, and there's gonna be winners and gonna be losers. And that's okay, right? It's actually a good thing because you need to learn how to cope with both. And, I think this idea that everybody gets a trophy, I think this idea that we want to kind of downplay this, that it's almost like a negative to be masculine. I think that's where we're headed down a slippery slope, because you're taking this thing that ancestrally has been around for decades, not decades, thousands of years, whatever. And we're trying to, and not all men are the same and not all women are the same. And I think that ultimately the father's job should be to harness and to navigate what the son's interests are and find healthy, constructive ways to help them, move forward. My two children are completely different and I treat them differently, and that's okay. My daughter is very feminine. My son is very masculine. It could have been the other way around, and I would have been okay with that, right? It could have been where my son isn't the way he is. And I would have had to learn as a father, how do I still navigate that where he might not have the same interests as I do, or the same aggression, or the same whatever. And that's okay. But for those dads who aren't paying attention, if your son does have those tendencies, they need to find positive outlooks. And I think sports are such a great way to do it. Team sports in particular, and learning how to work with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I've got, both my daughters in softball. And it's so fun to watch them out there, just like having a good time. Right. But then two, like, we started to keep score, and that's fun, right? When they're 6 and 4 and they still don't really totally understand, like they know, hey, we lost, but it's not a big deal. And so I try to, going into the game, be like, all right, guys, we're going to win today. Like, that's the most important thing. Like, we're going to win. Like, I want you to do good, but like, we need the W. That's the most important thing as the team, and when they lose, I try to, they're like having fun, having a snack and stuff. And I'm like, hey, you guys realize you lost, right? Like, that's
it's a fine line, especially at those ages. Now that my son's 8, what I want to see from him, and he's doing a good job. Like, we're still bridging. Like, my son's very competitive, more competitive than my daughter. But it's that when they lose, I want to see that you care, because that means it was important to you. But I don't want to see it debilitate you.
Yeah, you don't dwell on it. Get over it. And
that's
move
right.
to the next one. Yeah.
And surely don't act out, right? Like, you know what I mean? So those are, and I feel like we can start imparting some of those at a really young age with the children. And, they see how we react, right? Like, my children have watched in person me win, and they've watched me lose, and they should see emotion. That's okay. Right. But it should be one of like, I feel like it's interesting the way it works. Sometimes I get nervous before competitions and people ask me, oh, are you nervous? It's like, yeah, because I care. And the day that I'm no longer nervous means that I just don't even care about something. And it's good to care. It means that you give a shit about something in your life,
Yeah. So you're doing jiu-jitsu now pretty heavily, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm also doing CrossFit. I mean, I'm competing in CrossFit in like 3-4 weeks. So I'm getting ready for that. I may even do like what they call the CrossFit Open. But yes, I like jiu-jitsu because it allows me to express some of those, like the masculine tendencies we're talking about. It's very aggressive, and I like that. It's not for everybody, and I get that, and that's fine. But for me, I love the chess match. I love the competition. I love the suck factor of it, and it's something I gravitate towards.
Okay. Question for you: what is your favorite and least favorite CrossFit workout of all time?
I mean, look, it's so skewed because a lot of, it's funny because the CrossFit Games, like my favorite would be the Burden Run because I won that event in front of thousands and thousands of people. And it was just a great event for me. If you look it up from the 2013.
What exercises are in that one?
Well, that's the thing. You can't even do it. Like it was run like 3 miles, flip a pig for 100 yards and then carry a log and then pull a sled. It's like, you can't do it, but it was fun. That was my favorite event, okay. I should say. Workouts are things that pack a big punch, clean and jerks, thrusters, anything that packs a big punch. I like doing because they're efficient with my time. And things I don't like doing are, anything with like pistols or mainly pistols, but, workouts that have excessive amounts like toes to bar or pistols, those are things I don't really gravitate towards. But other than that, I'm down for whatever, it's all good.
Okay. I like, I have, it's a combined one. Like my favorite and my least favorite are the same one, but I enjoy doing it just because of the suck factor. And the challenge is, I think it's 21.2, which is the alternating dumbbell snatch and burpee box jump overs where you go 10, 15, 20, 15, 30, 15, et cetera. That one is brutal, man. Like I try to do like maybe once a month.
That was from the 21 CrossFit Games?
I think so. Yeah. What's from the Open?
Yeah. From the Open.
21. Yeah. 21.2, I think.
Yeah. I'll have to go check that out.
Brutal, man.
Yeah. At that point, that was last year.
Or maybe it's 20. Yeah. No, it's 21, I think. I think it's 21.2.
Yeah. I gotta go check it out. I mean, my relationship over the years, with CrossFit has kind of evolved and grown and different seasons. And I think that, I'm excited to see where they go now. I think there's been some change. I think it's going to be really good for the sport and good for the community. So yeah, I'm excited to see where CrossFit goes in the next 5-10 years.
Awesome. Well, Jason, man, where can guys go to find you if they want to check out NCFIT, they want to check out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a gym owner or a coach, definitely check out our session plans and programming. If you're an athlete, we have the NCFIT app. If you have access to, a lot of equipment, we're a phenomenal option just to crush it. And you can check out, I have a podcast called Effort Over Everything. We sometimes have guests, but for the most part, I just drop these Monday morning Jason Khalipas I just share information on, and we have guest episodes every now and then. So you can definitely check out that. Check me out at Jason Khalipa on Instagram, and all good.
Yeah, for sure, man. Check out Jason's son. He's going to be on the podium one day, sounds like. So
yeah, we'll get him there.
So awesome. Well, Jason, man, thank you for coming on, man. Hey guys, we'll see you guys on the next episode.